As you can imagine, it was very emotional for me to sit at that closing table and to be closing in the neighborhood where I grew up in. And as I was sitting there, I was thinking, wow, I used to dodge bullets in this neighborhood. And now I'm buying my first investment property. So it was very emotional.
So today I'm really excited because I have Urania Smith here with us. She is an amazing host, first of all. She throws incredible parties. She is a phenomenal chef, and she opens up her home and her heart to so many people. And we're really excited. She's also a leader, a Midwest leader with the creative real estate community, Sub 2 and Gator, that's associated with Pace Morby. And we're here going to talk just a little bit about her. She's been doing some fix and flips. She's quite the decorator, and you can tell by her kitchen behind her that this was a house that they fixed up when they moved in, and it's absolutely beautiful and set up exactly how they would like it for entertaining and everything else that they do. So I just want to say thanks so much for showing up, Urania. And I'm thinking a great place to start would just be tell us a little bit about you. I think you grew up in Chicago and then just kind of how you got to where you are now and ended up being a phenom in the real estate world.
Okay, first, I would like to say thank you for inviting me, Lynn. It is a pleasure to join you. When you said you were going to have a podcast, I'm like, you definitely have to have me on so we can chat it up like we usually do. I am, like you said, I'm from Chicago. I was born on the South Side. I come from Bronzeville. They used to call it the low end back in the day, so that's the nickname for the neighborhood. And it was definitely a rough area, but it is booming right now. And so that's where I'm from. My heart is near and dear to that space, and I like to invest in that area. It is a area that when I think about where I want to be as an investor, is definitely in a space where I grew up.
So I remember I've been in real estate since the 90s, and I remember when we first started moving kind of investors over into Bronzeville, and it is an incredible location. It's right by the lake, it's right by downtown, it's right by McCormick Center. I mean, there's so much all around it that it is definitely ripe for being an incredible location. And then we had Hyde Park to the south. So do you buy properties in there, fix them up? I know you're a decorator, so tell us a little bit about what you do with your real estate and how you find it and what you do when you find it.
Okay, so the first investment property we actually bought in Bronzeville. And as you can imagine, it was very emotional for me to sit at that closing table and to be closing in the neighborhood where I grew up in. And as I was sitting there, I was thinking, wow, I used to dodge bullets in this neighborhood. And now I'm buying my first investment property. So it was very emotional. That neighborhood, like a lot of people don't realize that to Chicago, Bronzeville to Chicago is what Harlem is to New York. It was the place where like the jazz musicians would go, and then you had the speakeasies and stuff like that, and people would just walk up and down the streets, showing off their cars and their clothes and things like that. And so it has a rich cultural significance in the African American community, and I'm really glad to see it come back, and is definitely very emotional for me to actually be investing in that area. So that was the first property that we bought. That was a little bit over 2 years ago. As far as design, I have always been a creative. I'm actually a writer and I write children's literature. I'm working on my first graphic novel right now. And yes, and so it wasn't a big leap from actually creating children's literature and writing to actually design. I actually feel like it satisfies the same part of my brain. So I've always just been someone who's been creative, and I just have an eye for things, and just kind of like, like you said, I am a phenomenal cook, and I'm not shy about that part. I like to actually brag on that. My dad, was a baker, and so I'm really proud that I'm able to, just cook. And honestly, I just absolutely just love hospitality. So just, design, cooking, just making people feel like they're at home when they walk into my home. That's very important to me.
You do that. I remember the first time I really got to know you. We saw each other briefly on the architecture cruise boat. We were with a bunch of people from our community. And then you and your husband, fiance, Adrian, and my daughter, who was with me that night, got in one of those rickshaws. And we drove from over where you get off the boats over to a restaurant in River North or something. And we laughed. I thought the second I met you and spent a little bit of time with you, I'm like, I love this girl. I'm going to hang around her. And then I got to see your hospitality when you opened up your home to us. There were probably 100 people there at a holiday party, and your food was incredible. Your hospitality was incredible. And yes, your warmth is just it just envelops everybody when they get around you. And you're funny. We laugh so much together. I love that.
Thank you. I'm going to point out only about 66 people RSVP for that party, but there were 100 people that showed up. But you know what, Lynn? I'm used to that. I'm used to, just I'm used to entertaining. I'm used to just a ton of people. Like when I cook, people come. So I loved it. I loved hosting. And when Nita was looking for a place to actually host a Christmas party, I was like, just have it in my house. And she was like, no, like, all right, no, just have it here. And then when we were looking at like, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna cook. I'm gonna treat them. I'm gonna cook. So I was glad to be able to do that for you guys. It's kind of like I have cooking and kind of like welcoming people is kind of like how I show love. So I was excited. And so I'm glad that, although we did have a very nice ride together. Um, when you came in and I was stressed about, getting everything done, you did come in and jump in and roll the meatballs for me. So that just showed me what type of girl you were.
You had
And,
way too much. You had way too much on your plate and so much just pots were stirring and this.
yeah. You
Yeah.
know what? Like I love to entertain, but sometimes I can't take on too much. And like my kids and Adrian calls me a drill sergeant in the kitchen, but you came in and you just did your thing, and and I was really grateful for that. But I it's stressful, but I do enjoy it.
Yeah, well, it was beautiful. Everybody had such a good time. Everybody raved about. So first of all, you can see your kitchen behind you. Some people use something that looks like that for backgrounds, like fake backgrounds. Like that's your kitchen. Talk about welcoming people and it being the heart and soul of the house. When you design projects, do you design them like I see your home? Do you have a piece of you that goes into the projects that you're working on, or what does that look like?
Yeah, I'm gonna say absolutely. Like, just I take on anything that I'm doing, any project that I'm designing. I always design for me. I want to design a home that I want to live in. And I know a lot of times I get a lot of pushback from other investors. You're not going to live there. Why do you care so much about this? Why, you're spending too much time on that. But it is very important for me to actually design each home like I want to live there. All I'm thinking about is, someone coming, home from work and just walking into a beautiful space that I actually designed. And that means a lot to me, but I do get a lot of pushback about that. As far as this house, I will have to say that this was actually the first real large project that I actually designed. Where I'm sitting, there was actually a glass wall. And so this was actually my living room was actually right in front of me. And so this kitchen is open to a living room with just the best bookshelf, view that I can have. I usually have the bookshelf behind me, but I have a huge skylight above me, and sometimes that light is just too much in the middle of the day for the camera. But I like open spaces. I like for the kitchen to be the heart of the home. And so I do design a lot of spaces with that in mind. I'm thinking about entertaining. I entertain a lot. I don't like to be cut off from my guests as I'm cooking, because a lot of times I'm still cooking as they show up, right? So I don't like to be cut off from them. I don't have, I like to know what's going on. I like to see people mingling and stuff like that as I'm cooking. And so a lot of projects I take on, I am definitely looking to how I can actually open up the kitchen and at least into the main living space.
Yeah, because yours is all open and it's gorgeous and goes out into your backyard, which is a labor of love, I know for sure. So it was a lot of work. I think that that space that your where your bookcase was, wasn't that like an atrium, a big glass? You said there was a glass wall, wasn't it a big glass?
Yes, so actually, the space, there are two glass walls on each side of the space, and it is an atrium, and there's a humongous skylight above my head right now. I think it has to be around about 16 by 10 or something like that. And so this was an atrium. It even had a water hose where you could turn the water, on and water the plants. And the entire space was actually brick. So there was a brick in the inside of the home. Although I thought the glass walls were very cool, it still separated this space. Also, this kitchen wasn't as large as you see behind me. This was a living room and a very tiny kitchen, like, right off, kind of like the kitchen was almost like an afterthought. And so when I saw this, it took me a while. I actually came in here before we bought it and I just sat down. And a lot of times I know I'm always asking the house, like, what do you want me to do to you? What, although it seems silly, that's kind of like, I'm thinking like, I don't like to, that I don't like to design funky spaces. I like to design spaces that are character that would have been characteristic to the home as it was built. So I'm not going to go ultra modern and a traditional house, even though I'm modernizing it, right? I still want to stick to a lot of the character and leave that in a house. And so when I came here, it had the two glass walls. Although I thought that was great, it just really cut off the entertaining space. And so for this area behind me, it was the living room and a kitchen. And so I said, you know what? I want this all to be my kitchen. And I took down the glass walls and that opened that up into the atrium is now my living room.
Well,
And
it's
the other glass wall I had to close off because we needed an extra bedroom. So that wall is it was like a 20 feet, what is this? The bookcase is like about 20 feet long or something like that. But it is definitely a showstopper in this house.
it absolutely is. It's and that bookcase is. It's a writer's bookcase. Like not,
Yes, it is.
that place fits you so much.
Thank you.
So, and it's funny you said, I like to say, what are you doing? But you said the kitchen is the heart of the home when you're looking at it. So it is a living, breathing project when you're stepping into it. And so for you to say, I look at it and say, what do you want me to do to you? I can see that because you're trying to fit into each individual project. So do you design work? Do you do design work for others? Would you be hired by someone or?
I typically don't take on other people's projects. I haven't so far. I do give consultations. I haven't full on taken on someone's project, but I have, helped them out, walked into their spaces and given them feedback. I have always hesitated to do that because I like to design with, I don't really want to have a whole lot of voices in my head as I'm designing. And when I'm, taking on else's project, I have to really think about what they want. It's just easier for me to think about like what exactly what I want in the space. And so that's why I haven't done it before. It's not like I wouldn't, I've become more comfortable as a designer since we started actually renovating projects. I was not formally trained, and so I think that there was some insecurity there. As I'm so that could also be why I haven't taken on other people's projects, just because I'm like, okay, I'm not really a formally trained designer, but I know how to make something look good. But still, you still have those insecurities, and if I go out and do it for someone else, all of a sudden, I'm a professional, and so maybe there's something there to that. But I like as far as I do our projects when we take on a project, I do have a formal process. I walk through the project. I make sure that it makes sense. I don't want to go into a home and chop it up and just stick an extra bedroom there just so you can get a higher rent or, to raise the value. I feel like design just have to make sense. It has to be practical. Um, I believe design should be simple. I know sometimes people look at my designs and they're like, okay, this isn't all that simple. And I'm like, actually, if you break it down, it is, right? It's a simple bookcase, it's a simple kitchen, it's a simple this, but also too, things have to be practical. I'm just always thinking about how those things will eventually look together. But as far as other people, I would take on projects. I'm a little bit more comfortable now. And I think I could. So
Well, I think that's part of the
maybe do you have something for me, Lynn?
maybe, maybe. I just everything, when I think about you and the way that you talk and you're just so creative and the things that I've seen that you do, it would make sense. I understand because all of us have those insecurities and all of us have the things that we have to push through. And it's more about proving it to ourselves than it is to other people
Yeah.
and to walk boldly into the next step. So we'll see. We'll come back later, on another podcast and see how that
Okay.
first project
Okay.
went.
Yeah.
So,
I do get a lot of requests. But like I said, I've just consulted so far, but I have not just taken on someone's entire project. I have not done that.
yeah, and you are creative. I know when we first met, you talked about helping your friend design like the whole scenery for her amazing wedding with all your hydrangeas and just your eye for detail, the things that you can just think of on the fly. We've prepared other meetups and things together, and sometimes you and I are the ones in the kitchen. Now that's kind of
Hmm.
our role, and just I just have like a bunch of fruit and this and that, and I don't really think about it. And you're like, well, Lynn, you really should separate this and this, and this is the way I do it. Not pushy at all, but just like this is how I would do it if it were me. And I'm like, do it. I'll do whatever you say because some people just have an eye for that, and you definitely do. And I know I want to talk about your writing because I know that you've been working on this children's book for a while. I know that you've probably got many more books inside your head. So tell us a little bit about how you got into writing and that part of your journey.
Well, I've been writing for over 20 years. And I've been writing up my entire life, I would say. But I started to seek publication about 20 years ago. When my son, he was an infant, and I discovered children's books. And children's books are just some of the funniest, most intelligent, I know it is an awesome genre. People do not give it the credit that it deserves, but they are like people also too don't realize how smart children are. And so I absolutely love writing for children. I love writing in the children's space. But it is very difficult to get published, especially traditionally published. When I first started, actually there's not actually a lot of Black children's writers. People really don't realize that. Now there are a lot more, but this was 20 years ago. And when I started writing, a lot of people wanted to they would tell me it's much more easier if you actually write Black books than write humor. And I'm a humor writer, like you said, when we get together, we're just laughing and stuff like that. Humor is in my bones, I understand a place for historical books and I love those, but I love books about robots and monsters and things like that. And so that's what I wanted to write, but it was very difficult to write that and be a Black author at the time. Times definitely have changed in the last 20 years, and you're seeing a lot more authors just write across genres and stuff like that. It's still not where it should be, but that's kind of like been my journey. I came up the current book that I'm writing, I came up with this concept probably about, I don't know, it's probably about 6 years ago now. And it actually started as a picture book. for young children, and then it morphed into actually a graphic novel, and that's what it is now. And my agent, she picked me up with only like a chapter or two done, and that is kind of unheard of for just someone who's just a writer and not an illustrator. But it has been very slow. I've been writing for about 4 years now. It's been slow because I've never written a graphic novel before. I had to actually learn how to write a graphic novel because I had never written one before. And now I'm at the end and it feels great, but I still haven't, I'm almost there. And so she has been patient and I love that about her, but it has definitely been a long journey.
I feel like that's kind of how you roll. Like you probably didn't know how to make those amazing meals the first few meals you made. And now it just, you put it together, you know what you're doing. You didn't feel confident doing your first projects, right? To do your first kitchens and your first, and now you
Exactly.
know what you're looking for. Now you're even open to the idea of, oh, maybe I could do more than consulting for somebody. Um, so I kind of see you as on your writing journey as you just keep moving forward, and then there's so many more books inside of you, and that is
Yeah.
one thing that I really admire about you is you you just go, you do the things, you have these things in your heart and you push through. So okay, so the book, you're like, well, it's been a process of about 4 years, but what have you learned in the last 4 years? And you can recognize, I had to learn how to, where some people might say, oh, it's taken me 6 months, maybe I should do something else. And you're like, no, this is what I'm doing. And the joy of learning is part of your process. Like
Yeah.
that feeds your soul also. So it's incredible. I think that, you're admirable as a woman in so many ways. And, you're a mom, you're a partner, you're a businesswoman, you're creative, you are a heck of a cook. Just there's so many things about you that make me just want to spend more time with you. And it's fantastic to get to introduce you to people today. What I'd like to do is come back next time you've got a project and maybe walk through the project together. We could do like a documentary of going through what it was like and from the beginning of some of the crazy stories and piece by piece and see how your brain works from the standpoint of real estate. And I know you're also a lender, so you're in that world of Gator and partnering
Yes.
money to the people that need it. So I'm so blessed to have you in my world, and this has been fun, kind of stepping into the world of Urania Smith and introducing you to everybody out there. And I'm excited for the next part of the journey.
Well, I truly appreciate that. I actually think that my first project, which is not done, it's been, a very slow moving project. I've finished plenty of projects since, but I think that that would be a great space to start. Bronzeville project that started it all.
I think we should do that. So we'll get that on the calendar and get in there in the next week or two and get that started because that would be fantastic. That would be a lot of fun. Okay, well, I guess what we'll do is we'll put that on the calendar. We'll have a part two to this little chit chat together and take it from there. But I'm excited. So if people want to reach out to you, get to know you a little bit, find out what you're doing in the money space, find out what you're doing, where would they find you? How would people connect with you?
Okay, I am on social media as I'm on Instagram as Urania.Smith. I'm on Facebook as Urania Smith at Urania Smith. As far as you can even, if you're interested in sending me a project, I am definitely looking for my next flip or renovation. You can send that to Urania Smith at property52.com. And you can always DM me on Messenger or Instagram.
Awesome. So we'll also put those in the show notes so people go directly to those links and catch up with you. So you definitely have my recommendation. So if anybody wants to have those conversations with you, definitely reach out to you. Then the all of those links will be directly right here in the show description. And we'll look forward to getting together again and walking through this next project with you.
Awesome. Thank you. Um, I am always willing to help new designers, new investors, people who's looking to do anything that I'm trying to do. So I'm always willing to help. So definitely reach out to me if you feel like, you want to ask some questions or maybe try to figure something out.
That's fantastic. That's a really great offer too. And people should take advantage of that. So, okay. Well, thank you, Urania. And I will definitely put all your information in here so people can reach out to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Lynn. It was a pleasure joining you today.
It was great. See you later.
All right. Bye.